If you just continue to press the same button like X, 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 and Y, 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 and X, X, and Y, Y, Y again, you'll be sucked. Right?
No industry is free from stupidity, corruption, fear, or any combination of the three. Last time we looked at EA, and now we're going across the Pacific to a horse that's been dying even more slowly and painfully than LucasArts, Konami. The company was once known for intricate stories like Silent Hill and Metal Gear, satisfying gameplay like Contra, and creative designs like Castlevania, but now it's become more of a biting joke than anything that inspires confidence. It's gotten to the point where either Konami or EA could trade places as gamers' curse of the day. And in dishonor of that, I'm replacing my flutter sensor with Quarter Guy's enraged utterance of Konami with his blessing.
Like so, Konami are such Konami. Not quite as catchy, but works for today.
Like with my EA list, I'm going to focus on examples of Konami's greatest failures to both themselves and the game-buying public. This could be anytime they were greedy, selfish, rushed, or just plain dumb. And I'm going by how negatively it affected their business, their standing in the community, their franchises, or all of the above. And again, like my EA list, there were so many that I had to group most of these entries. Hang on to your undies, folks, and see why they earned that once trending hashtag.
Let's face it. Eventually, TV shows, movies, and even video games are going to end up being rebooted or rehashed as a sort of marketing effort to bring something new and fresh to the franchise. Help!
And there have been occasions where the changes actually help enhancing the gaming experience. Updated graphics, new yet surprisingly fitting gameplay additions, or even a subtle shift in the story can get gamers invested and curious to see what's next. And then there are the reboots that just don't get it. They shake things up just for the purpose of shaking things up, and it comes off as a lazy cash grab that does nothing to respect its predecessors. Sad to say, Konami is a repeat offender. Remember Frogger, the simple arcade game about helping a family of frogs cross a busy road and hazardous river using only creative avoidance techniques to save your warty hide? Well, some genius at Konami decided to revamp the game into a 3D platform adventure titled Frogger: The Great Quest! Frogger, now an anthropomorphic Mr. Toad reject, journeys across a magic kingdom to find a princess to kiss. Wow, such a subtle transition. You know, this might shock and appall gaming companies, but slapping a popular character's name on your title doesn't change what it really is. Another generic questing game. You could have just called this the Frog Prince, at least it'd make more sense. And then we got Castlevania, another classic horribly mishandled by its own creators, and not just once. The first Lord of Shadows was made as an attempt to reboot the franchise after a decline in sales, but they kept the fact that it was a Castlevania reboot under wraps. Surprisingly, it was a small commercial success. Some were able to look past the sudden transition to 3D and how it borrows elements from other successful games. I am not one of those people. Then there's Judgment, a Castlevania fighting game with botched up Wii remote controls, irritating camera movements, and questionable character designs. Don't quite fit well together, do they? At least the story and characters themselves are interesting enough, but it does feel like planting a single flower after cutting down an entire forest.
Finally, we come to Bomberman Act 0. Do you see what's wrong with this picture?
This is a nosedive away from the original tone, shifting from a colorful, cartoony, basically friendly environment to a dull, dystopian setting where the once unique-looking robots are now as generic as the 2017 Power Ranger movie suits. So mature! So edgy! While it plays kinda like a regular Bomberman game, it feels really tedious after a while, and it doesn't even offer multiplayer. Probably for the best. Would you really want to subject your buddy to something like this? Look, at the end of the day, I'm not asking to keep every game exactly the way it is, because, face it, it'll get old really fast. But if a company has to reboot its popular titles, the least they can do is offer a little respect to what made these titles the classics we know today. Just saying. There are many bad things to be upset about when it comes to Konami, and what I'm going to talk about right now is not really relevant.
That said, your NES days, Konami. We do not forgive. We do not forget.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Top Gun, Metal Gear, Castlevania 2. All of them are brutally, unabashedly hard! Not just difficult like Dark Souls. Do I really have no better frame of reference? But just controller-crushing hard. Top Gun, the segment where you have to land the plane. Yes, I beat the level. Can I just move on? TMNT, why can't I get past this jump? Why are there no saves? Why do they have a time limit on this underwater segment that requires me to be slow and careful or die? And guess what? If you happen to play on the PC, there's a jump in the game that is literally impossible to do, making beating the game seem hopeless. I know, NES, but still, what were they thinking?
And don't even get me started on Castlevania 2!
Half the platforms are not actual platforms, requiring you to throw holy water every 2 feet in front of you. There's so much cryptic weirdness relating to this game that it's mind-boggling. Just to save time, let me walk you through something. There's a point in the game where in order to progress, you need to equip a red crystal, kneel before a dead end for 10 seconds or so, then a magical tornado comes by and teleports you through the wall. How am I supposed to know this before the internet? Nintendo power? Roll the next item.
Silent Hill. Only 2 words and there's a lot to unpack. Let's start with the one that you're likely not thinking of immediately.
There's a strong argument to be made for remastering one of, if not the greatest psychological horror games of the past 20 years. Imagine the deep-seated fear and disgust of the audience experiencing the story with cleaner visuals and updated sound design. And drawing in new players who want an existential scare wouldn't hurt either. But
You went Star Wars Special Edition. Never go Star Wars Special Edition.
not only was the Silent Hill HD collection a buggy mess that they refused to patch, ready to treat 2 of your best games, you
Konami.
The elements they changed completely altered the game for the worse. For one, they made everything as dark as Kojima's therapy notes. Secondly, somehow they managed to make the visuals soupy and less impressive than they were 11 years before, when you could see them at least. Finally, they took away the fog, which is the whole atmosphere, you idiots, but didn't bother to fix the issues with the other graphics that the fog had been hiding. It's like scraping the paint off a porch and not giving it a new coat. What's the purpose? Oh, and bonus, they didn't include Silent Hill 4 The Room.
Oh, hi, Mark.
The original games are still perfectly serviceable, but Konami is so focused on milking more money out of their pasture of dying cows that they don't focus on the quality of the final products. They bank on this Disney mindset of, they liked it once, they'll like it again, but shinier. And I don't see it stopping because now they're thinking about remastering Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Why does that feel like a threat?
Feels like not too long ago, Konami was on the top of the world with their more promising titles. However, as the years go by, it started to become more than a little obvious that they're running out of gas, or people are becoming more aware of their shadier business tactics. Some YouTubers have felt bold enough to make videos calling them out on their fuck-ups. Some being concerned critiques, others being full-on rants tearing into the company for all it's worth.
Naturally, Konami, being the very face of professionalism, responded with so much dignity and praise.
No, Konami's solution is just straight-up censorship, flagging down videos bold enough to point out their many, many missteps. For example, Super Bunny Hop did a video about the whole Konami Kojima debacle, which is a whole new can of worms by itself. It got a copyright strike, even though the video was mostly a speculation piece filled with fair use material, meaning the company has no means to file a claim against it. Thankfully, the strike was removed and the video became watchable again, but it raised quite a few red flags with so many people questioning why Konami would try flagging down a video they had no real reason to. Needless to say, that made people even more suspicious. And then there's Jim Sterling, the godfather of video game journalism himself. He dared to badmouth their precious Silent Hill HD remaster and then posting an interview they didn't approve of. After hurting their fifis one too many times, Konami went ahead and blacklisted Mr. Sterling, which inspired him even more to ever tear them down a peg whenever they do something embarrassingly bad. He ended up making a hashtag out of all of this and it spread like wildfire. Hashtag fuck
Konami.
Konami feels more and more relevant the longer the company tries to save their image, only to completely ruin it by making themselves look worse. AAA companies, am I right?
Metal Gear is a bit of a sordid story now. And spoiler warning, it's not getting old anytime soon.
Metal Gear Survive was the project produced after Metal Gear 5. This was after they lost Kojima, this was after we learned about some poor working conditions, and this was after we just lost Castlevania to the next item on the list. So did anyone expect this game to be good?
Yup!
Basically, they took the fantastic engine Metal Gear Solid 5 used, which was designed for action, shooting, and stealth, and tried to turn it into an overbearing, grindy survival game. It was a mess. It was so bad that some of the developers hid messages that mocked Konami and applauded Kojima. And on top of that, leave it up to Konami to figure out how to make microtransactions even worse. What do you think they added? Loot boxes? Battle passes? Pay to win in-game loot? I almost wish. They added the ability for players to pay for a second save slot. Only $10! My disappointment is immeasurable. Moving on. We know Konami as a company mainly focused on console and handheld gaming with a few arcade titles to its name. Oh, and Yu-Gi-Oh, but no one cares about that. Franchises like Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania, on the other hand, are almost exclusively known to be on consoles. So, your release schedule is a little barren. What do? Remaster them but do it better? Work on spin-off titles? Or heck, release a new great game in one of these franchises that people have been begging for years? No, they use their most popular series to entice people to gamble their money away in the Japanese equivalent of Vegas slot machines. This is product whoring at its most blatant, quite literally with Castlevania. Oh yeah, that series. You know, the one that hadn't seen a true return to form on consoles since Curse of Darkness on the PlayStation 2? And after the cancellation of the much anticipated PT, they figured the smartest thing to do for their reputation was to slap Silent Hill on a pachinko machine. And guess what? Now they're dragging Metal Gear into it. And the absolute worst part about all of this? It's working for them. They are rolling in money and are shifting further and further away from making games. Sometimes I feel like we're in one of those bad timelines. Konami had a good thing going when they had Hideo Kojima on their side. He had been a major asset to the company since the late 80s as a writer, designer, and future vice president. His biggest gift to the company being the Metal Gear series. Unfortunately, things turned ugly super fast during development for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. It was to be Kojima's final Metal Gear project, and he announced that he would be leaving the company for real and for the very last time. Konami took it well.
You're dead to me.
As well as an overly controlling gaming empire can take it anyway. For starters, even though Metal Gear Solid was his child, they tried to have his name taken off the box art from Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, because no devoted fan is gonna notice the missing name of the franchise's patron saint.
It's like if they tried to cut John Hancock's name out of the Declaration of Independence. Kinda hard to miss!
Adding to it, Phantom Pain ended up being released unfinished. There was plenty more content and even music that Kojima had plans for the game that ended up being cut. So they were either that spiteful, that desperate to grab that cash flow, or some kind of little gray area in the middle.
It's remarkable how often those two traits coincide.
The final kick in the pants, somehow their little half-finished homework assignment managed to win an award for Best Action Game and Best Score/Soundtrack, but Kojima was banned by Konami from attending the ceremony or accepting the award. Okay, that last one kind of makes sense since they parted ways, but it still feels bittersweet to treat their former star player like this after everything he's done for them. But that's the gaming industry for you. If you don't play ball, they'll chew you up and spit you out. And take away your firstborn child.
Hey kids, do you want to work at a video game company? Did you used to work for Konami? Well, you better not put them on a resume or you'll never find work again.
I sincerely wish I was kidding about this one, but nope, reports have shown Konami going out of their way to blacklist their former employees. Once you walk out their door, they give you the boot, they'll bend over backwards to make sure you can't get a job at another video gaming company. They'll call other companies ahead of time, warn them that you're an ex-con, and threaten to drop the hammer on that company. What's worse is that if you even try to put them on your resume, hope you got a lawyer ready because they just might drag you to court.
Oh, look! An ex-Konami employee is trying to find work somewhere else. But if I can't have the work, then nobody can!
A lot of it seems to coincide with their ongoing war against Kojima, their once star player, now most hated enemy. When his company, consisting of former cons, tried to apply for healthcare, they got denied by the Insurance Society's chairman, which just so happens to be a director for Konami.
Coincidence? I think not!
Don't bother asking for any word about these allegations, they'll just quickly deny it up and down. So, the moral of this story? Never try to work at Konami. The minute they're through with you, they'll still have their icy grip on you forever, and make sure you pay the price for being the cog that didn't quite fit in their bureaucratic clock of madness. In 2014, another Silent Hill installment developed by Kojima Productions was announced. Rather than your typical screenshots and teaser trailer, they released a fully playable first-person psychological demo simply titled PT, or Playable Teaser. Already, players were hooked by the tension-building scares that effectively pulled you into the terror. Makes you wonder how the actual game could have gone. Well, we never got a chance to find out because the final product was cancelled even after all the hype and publicity they generated. And what was to become of PT? Leave no evidence! The teaser was pulled from the PlayStation Store, but it was promised that it could be re-downloaded. Psych, they lied about that and made it incapable of being re-downloaded. Haha. This made systems with PT on it incredibly valuable to collectors, going for insane prices. But that wasn't the end for deal with Konami, oh no! They then sent up bots to forcibly remove the game from people's hard drives, virtually hell-bent on wiping every single minuscule evidence that arguably one of their best titles ever existed. To top it all, they managed to C&D a fan remake of the game, the one tiny hope of ever reliving the PT experience. And while the American branch tried to salvage it by offering the young game designer an internship, who would want to intern for a company that throws a tantrum over a game demo?
You'll be sucked. Right?
Days in Fallujah was supposed to be a game about the events of Operation Phantom Fury. To be honest, I understand why they backed out of making a game centered around such a recent conflict. For some, it's too soon. Also, projects get cancelled all the time, so I can't blame them too much, but I'm confused. Considering how much they doubled down about their crappy practices, they chose here, of all times, to try and salvage their reputation? That's a head-scratcher to be sure. Because of the understandable factors, I'm only mildly disappointed. You ever hear rumors about those overly controlling internet content creators? You know what I'm talking about. They paranoidly screen everyone who comes into their chat rooms, cry bully people into restricting their speech, and if you say anything bad about them or try to leave them for whatever reason, including your mental or physical health, they freak out and you get blasted? Konami's like that, but confirmed real.
Okay guys, this is gonna seem very similar to what I did with the EA video, but I promise you it is different. Because there's many different ways to make your employees suffer. You could sweatshop them like EA, or you could grind them under your heel like you're the grotesque fusion of 1984 and the obsolete man. That is not hyperbole.
According to reports, they instill an atmosphere of paranoia, aggressively monitoring employee activity, even going so far as to check their lunch breaks. If you step out of line, you are publicly humiliated. And according to Jim Sterling, they sabotage their employees' productivity by making acquisition of anything they need hidden under layers and layers of bureaucracy. Their oppressive atmosphere also denies personal accomplishments. You did a good? No, Konami did a good. Finally, Konami has no patience for employees they deem useless, shuffling their responsibilities around not only to other jobs within their division, but sometimes moving them out of game development entirely and into working at their patch slot factories, turning them into security guards or even making them janitors at their fitness facilities. One of their most incredible instances of this involves an employee posting to Facebook he was leaving the company, and other workers who liked the status found themselves reassigned to one of these punishment jobs.
Don't forget, you're here forever.
Konami is run by Dolores Umbridge and Agatha Trunchbull, combined together in a sacrifice by Mr. Burns on Mount Orwell, and all their little followers are expendable as Sean Bean.
I'm the fiery Joker, and I'm willing to give Konami a little bit of credit. I mean, I criticized them throughout this entire video and nothing happened to me.